The first part is basically, where is banking, digital banking headed? And then the second part is we try and bring it a little bit more practical into, how do you go about implementing digital transformation in your organization? And how do you overcome some of the challenges? So I'll let the panel introduce themselves, really. And so maybe if you can introduce yourself and just give us an opening statement as to, where do you see banking or digital banking evolving in the next 3 to 5 years in Moldova, in the region, and also more globally? Start? Yeah.
Sorry, I don't have a mic. Hi, I'm Mircea from Lozano. I'm Director Ecosystem in Fintech OS. We at Fintech OS are strong believers the fact that people want to live the way they want to live their lives. That means, basically, that from banks' perspective, they need to readjust the way they are present in the people's life. What I mean by that, on the perspective of the digital banking, they need to adjust their strategies to cover those needs of the people. By that, I mean that they need to actually be more and more present in the way, or actually where their customers are. And basically, they need to start asking 2 questions. How can I be more present in my customers' lives? And also, where are my customers? This is how actually all the digitalization began, with that question in mind. We've seen, because we have the privilege of being a global company with offices across Europe, UK, United States, and Asia, we've seen this digital transformation across regions. And of course, we see differences in this respect, but there are some more advanced, let's say, countries and something that can be done in a better way. So we've seen this digital transformation starting from the people actually needs, the customer needs, in terms of what they need to change in their systems in order to cope with these new challenges that they have. So basically what we've seen in the more mature markets, such as the US market, which started a couple of years ago, a long time before, even if you're in your presentation this morning, we saw that example from Bank of America, which for 5 or 6 years now, which was not necessarily the best case of digital transformation. That what I'm trying to say is that there are more mature markets in terms of digital transformation projects. And then coming closer to Europe, of course, we see a lot of projects in this respect from the Western Europe and UK. Countries like France, UK, and Germany are having a lot of projects in this respect. And even for the Central and Eastern Europe, we see also a lot of business transformation in countries like Poland, Czech Republic, and Croatia. And even closer to our space, lots of projects in Romania as well.
Hi, Hugo Araújo from CIBS in Romania, CEO. Meaning, the ones that I heard me during the morning already know my opinion on this. This morning was more from a perspective on the payment space. And I believe that, meaning digital in payments or getting digital, we are doing it since ever. That's the mission of the ones that are in the payments industry. But I've seen an acceleration in last years, and mainly in the last 2-3 years, this acceleration was clear in figures, in scale, in the number of solutions that we brought to the market, that the banks brought to the market, and the number of non-banking players or non-traditional players that start to pop up having success. Meaning we work in CIBS globally, mainly in Europe and Africa. In both continents, we saw within the last years an acceleration in all the digital strategies. Before this COVID pandemic, we were seeing some banks giving more priority to digital banking strategy, but still all the banks were keeping attached to traditional banking structures. But in the last 3-4 years, I see an inversion. I see, meaning the majority of banking or non-banking players, fintechs and so on, pushing for this digital banking. And I see CapEx dedicated to digital double or triple. I also see a strategy that someone talked today here, which is to build inside the structure two teams. The ones that think the future and the ones that were kept thinking about the core business. Because you need a different head to speed up things. And I saw a lot of banks doing that, creating digital teams that were digital only, working different office, different style, thinking about the future. So, meaning, that's, as an opening remark, I believe that traditional banks realize that they need to put capex on developing their digital strategy and assume that this is, meaning, the key, let's say, project or the key transformation of their organization. Furthermore, when a lot of non-banking players were popping up more, occupying bank space, occupying some of the bank space, obviously also creating a lot of market, and some of them collaborating a lot with banks. But definitely, meaning, I believe in the last 3-4 years and from now on, this strategy will accelerate.
Hello, I am Alexandru Rizea, Cto at Ctos. Regarding the digital transformation of banks, if you ask me this 3 or 4 years ago, yeah, I would say that this was a nice word, yeah, something that the banks are saying, yeah, but they are not doing. They were saying that we'll try to do digital transformation, but actually they didn't start to do it. The COVID pandemic changed completely this, and the thing has started to accelerate, yeah, and they are really doing it. We have seen a lot of banks that have changed completely their way of thinking, yeah, and they are investing money in digital transformation. You can see the Czech bank, yeah, in Romania, which, let's say, it's the most traditional bank in the country, and they have embraced the new technologies, and they have right now a digital onboarding solution, which is a major accomplishment from their side, and I see this as a trend that the other banks are going to follow. And I also see here in Moldova a lot of interest for new technologies and digitalization. So in a few years, yes, I think that this will this process will be stronger and stronger. Yeah, they will apply almost in all the banks. Okay, thanks.
Hello, everybody. My name is Aliona. I am from MAIP. I am Vice President responsible for retail. For those who don't know me still in the room. Regarding your questions, I think that now the world understands very well, the business world, that process is important, product is important, but they are much less important than customer. So the client is in the heart of the business and in the center of attention of everybody in the business. Considering this, I think, and we also at MAIP have the same attitude, that digital transformation starts because clients want that. So if we want to be close to our clients, we should be there where they want. For now, we think that the digital way probably is one of the most fast developing, because we have clients which are already, let's say, in more advanced ages, but we have 7-year-old clients and they are all in digital world, and this means that we are going there. Till when and till where we will go probably depends a lot of what customer want on one side, and on another side, how much we can afford ourselves, depending on security and protection of rights of the customers in the context of legislation and international regulation. But I think that digital is the future, and not just because we want, but because the society is asking for that.
Thank you for that. So that's very insightful, and I mean, there's a lot going on. I see with Moldovan banks, but also across the globe. So I think if I look at it globally, there's two areas of investment. So one area of investment, and I think Hugo, you touched on it, is bringing about digital banking because you want to serve your customers better, right? But they tend to be existing customers. You're giving them different channels. You're giving them ease of convenience. I think, as I mentioned in my presentation previously, where the needle shifts and where you shift not just kind of value and profit, but also reshape the business and bring in new, profits or new revenue streams. You need to start sort of using, maybe behave more like a fintech, for example, open new types of market. Would you invest in that, or are you seeing mainly sort of investment in the currently, I would say, operational efficiencies and better customer experience? Or are digital transformation strategies being explored to open new markets that you don't operate in right now? So maybe a good idea from Hugo, Aliona, if you can give us some view of, where's the thinking going? Is it mainly we want to drive efficiencies, or we see this as an opportunity for massive scale up?
Let me start again where I started a little bit before. If we think in terms of our business, we think about our clients. Today, you can have a client who accepts, for example, to come to the branch, to stay somewhere in a queue for some time. But we understand that in case we continue in the same way, if we would take this decision, we could be easily disrupted by lots of other companies around just because they offer another experience, which is more seamless, more fast, more comfortable. That's why our investment, our decision on investment in digital, it's not because of efficiency primarily, not because of the products to be faster primarily, but because our customers are requiring that. So when they require, you start to look what is first to be done and how it should be done. And then you start to invest. For example, now we already announced that, I don't know what is the microphone, that we started to invest, first of all, in customer experience, so customer journey in our digital channel. And we are going to continue investing, not in products, not in increasing, way of providing some products, but specifically in customer experience. Of course, it brings a lot of efficiency, because earlier how it was, you come to take a loan in the bank, you have to wait for 3-4, in good cases, days. A lot of people are working, making some analysis, taking some papers. Now the loan is provided in several seconds in online channel. The same with deposits, the same with payments. And situation evolved day by day. And in fact, decisions should be taken, in my opinion, based on experience you want to give not only to your current customers, but to the future ones.
Yes, I agree with this approach. This is not something that is a big bang approach that from one day to the other we change for something that was the traditional approach, and in the other everyone is on a super digital approach. So it's a generational change. It takes some time to get there. So I believe that we need to start to plant some seeds on the digital world, and meaning at some point there will be a tipping point that this digital will take off, and it will take off not only in the new generation, but the new generation will help the former generations to support them to migrate for a more digital context. On the other hand, there's also new solutions that are answering directly to some demand that is already there in the market, but nobody was, till that point in time, addressing it. I gave a very interesting example this morning in my presentation, which is about soft POS. The soft POS is creating market on one hand, because till now we have a huge group of merchants that are doing just a few transactions per day. So this group of merchants, for an acquirer, they are not profitable to put there one POS and to charge, or maybe they cannot charge, meaning pay 1% or 2% of commissions because there is a cost, an infrastructure cost, and so on. With the soft POS, they already have their mobile phone there. It's much cheaper, and this is creating clearly markets. What we have seen when we launched this is that, meaning the demand was there in the market for this segment, for a segment that was not yet capable to assess on a profitable way this service, on one hand. On the other hand, we also find out, as a surprise, that even in big merchants, there were markets that were not addressed by any product. And the soft POS, on our case, was also very successful in very big merchants for mobility cases. This means that whatever we have developed till this point was not addressing this specific segment. It was there still with cash and so on. So basically, meaning this is not a big bang, so it's not going to be from one day to the other. It will take time. Banks, fintechs will need to invest in create these seeds. It will take time to get there, and the migration, but still, someone needs to address the segment that will keep in the traditional segment. And we are talking typically in developed world, but in the less developed, let's say, payments or cashless society or banking societies, we still need to think that there is a huge segment of the population with 40. There are several markets, even still in Europe, with 40% of banking population. So this population, we still didn't create the right product to address them. Yeah. So meaning the side of creating something that is not yet addressing this market, creating this market, is still something that I believe that these new solutions will address on a priority basis.
Is it working? Okay. If I may add something, I think that right now the banks are in the stage where they are trying to fight with the disruptors, and they are trying not to lose clients, yeah, and they are not prepared at this moment to go to other markets, yeah, to address other markets. Right now the focus is to keep their clients, yeah, to get new clients, but from the same markets as they are addressing now.
I can see from Aliona's body language that she doesn't agree with it, so it'll be good to get your views, Aliona.
Microphones are. Do you hear me? I think, maybe I'm not totally right, but I think that disruption starts when there are some segments of clients which are small and at some point not interesting for banks, and because of it, disruptors start to look at them. Because usually banks look at a more bigger segment of clients because they receive more profits from there. And yes, it was for a period that some portion of clients in the bank were not somehow taken care of them. But the situation changes dramatically now. And I would not say that banks now do not pay attention to smaller segments of the clients. And I think that is a very sound competition now between banks and fintechs for the same client. But it's not, I still believe that it's not still the situation in Moldova when banks are, how to say, very aggressive fighting with fintechs because of the same client. It's at least understanding for now. Maybe it could change depending on the scale and depending on aggressivity of fintechs. But for sure now banks are looking better of all segments of the clients in the bank. At least is what I see.
Okay, that's, I mean, it sounds like obviously, you know, the main focus is on optimization and better client service, but it sounds like also you are looking at new market opportunities. And potentially as more fintechs come in, you know, you could partner with them. I mean, we always talk about fintech and banks. The other interesting one, and maybe Alexandra and Mircea, your views on that, you know, if you look at globally, the big tech is a big threat. So, you know, all of a sudden fintech, and no more fintech anymore, but now big tech. Because if you look at around the world, you know, the Apples, the Googles, the AliExpress, and, you know, all of those guys now, and telecom companies, Especially when we go into the embedded finance world. If I go around finance shows in the UK, you see British Gas and you see BMW, and these guys are all creating financial services channels to provide the seamless, at the point experience. So I just wanted to get your view from, you guys are in the technical space. What is your view about how, big a threat are these technology companies in your region and in Moldova as well?
I can start if that's fine. There is this interesting concept that was launched in the media space and in the fintech world a couple of years ago. That is not necessarily controversial, but they were saying that every company will become a fintech company. Now, I agree with this one because, like you mentioned, you're talking about big techs, but I would say we have lots of other examples, the retailers, okay? We can talk about NGAs, we can talk about companies that are working in the agriculture segment. Every one of them has this part of embedded finance, like you rightly mentioned that. And because it was said here that if they represent a threat to banks, I would also say that this is an opportunity because it is right. If the banks, and now I'm talking to the people in the audience that are part of banks, these guys are eating your breakfast as we speak because they are really actually getting some revenues that you could have. But at the same time, if you think of it, it's also an opportunity because if you are partnering with the right fintechs or organizations that are doing this, then you can also get to those markets or segments that you cannot reach now for various reasons that was mentioned today. So that's why I would rather say this is an opportunity. And I would also say something that we really see it as a good example. Actually, collaboration is the new competition. Because whoever is able to put up in place the right setup or ecosystem of partnerships between banks, technology companies, fintechs, etc., will be successful in the market. So that's why I would rather see it as an opportunity. That threat is there simply because you're not seeing those companies as competitors. But as long as you do understand that you can partner with those companies, then you can be successful in targeting markets or segments that you never seen before.
Yes, I actually think that big tech it's indeed a very powerful competitor. If you think right now they have a lot of money, yeah, and a lot of data. They actually could profile anybody much better than any bank could do it. Yeah, they know exactly what are the needs of the clients, and they can supply also this money, which they have a lot. Yeah, and the telecom companies, which are right now in a very awkward position, they are a step closer to losing their way of making money. Yeah, because of this global network of satellites and so on. Yeah, immediately after the Starlink has started, yeah, the first, I do not remember the name of the company producing phones, yeah, that they said that, okay, we can exclude the GSM module as this. Yeah, it's cheaper, it's easiest, it's perfect for us to remove GSM component from the telephones and to move everything to internet, to the cloud. And indeed, I have seen in the last years telecom companies going to this financial market because I think that is the closest thing to their activity, yeah, and where they can produce money in the future.
Just one more statement, because we need to have an understanding of how big or small, or if this is a threat of an opportunity or an opportunity. Do you know that Starbucks, that we all know, have right now $1.5 billion in their balances via their loyalty cards that they have? $1.5 billion. Name 10 banks, even in US, that have this cash, let's say, available. So wouldn't you partner with such a company that is doing that? So that's why it is a threat, because these money, they have it in their hands, but it's also an opportunity.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. And I think, if you think of the big tech guys, their core competence is not the back-end compliance and, processing and stuff like that, right? If that was the case, I mean, if you think of Amazon, I know Amazon has a lending business to their merchants, but they use a bank behind the scene to do all the processing. So I think partnerships are the key thing. I just want to move on to demand. So I heard a lot this morning that, we respond to customer needs, right? But at the same time, if I look at some parts of Africa, people actually don't want a bank account, right? You got a mobile wallet. I don't need to go into a bank, right? I do everything through that case. And I think as we've come through the lockdown, lots of younger people have been introduced to decentralized finance and, crypto world, where they can transfer money to their friends and things like that. So I'm just wondering, firstly, in the case of Moldova, I know you've got some history that there was some trust lacking in the banking system. I know that's changing as we go through. But is there a demand for these kind of products in the context of specifically Moldova? Obviously businesses respond to demand, and if there's no demand, there's no market. So what's your views? Maybe I'll just leave that as an open question. Is there demand for digital financial services, fintech, and is it big enough in Moldova? We start with Hugo.
I believe, meaning crypto, we are still in a let's say in the first steps of crypto, but we do see some markets where you already have relevant part of the, let's say, or the segment addressable, or the first movers that is already relevant. For example, in Romania, it's the case where you have one unicorn that is connected with development of cryptocurrency and several stakeholders around looking at it with interest. So I would say that right now we are still in the first step, so it's still a baby that is trying to grow, but he still doesn't know how to walk in the right way. But if you look to the most, let's say, advanced markets in these first cryptocurrencies, where these first cryptocurrencies were successful, we can already see some volumes. We can already see also some setbacks. And we also saw that on top of the fintechs or the private initiatives, the national banks and the state starts to get interested in it. So I have a feeling that over the next few years, this will be on the agenda. I'm not saying that is meaning, let's say, a popular priority right now within, meaning traditional banks and so on. It's more fintechs and probably central bankers and states that are start to get concerned on what is going to happen without starting to regulating it and so on. But it will accelerate at some point. There will be a point where meaning you seamless will start to move, and we are starting to see it in some pilots that we are working on with some partners. Crypto for regular currency and regular currency for crypto. When you start to build the bridge, probably through the same wallet, in my opinion, my vision is you will have one wallet, you'll have cryptocurrency, you'll have digital euro, you have regular currency, normal, and you will move all of these seamless. There will be a tipping point also in the usage of this. And we are not much far away from that. Obviously, it's not in the next 2-3 years, but meaning it will accelerate.
So any other views on the demand for digital financial services or fintech? Aliona, from your side? I mean, it sounds like your customers are demanding digital services.
Let's speak a little bit different. Moldova and Moldovan customers are Moldovans which travel a lot or live abroad sometimes. And we have a very big diaspora outside, which are I don't want to say that inside the country we are not financially educated, advanced financially educated, but anyway, going abroad, when you talk to people from abroad, they speak more about that, and they are more educated from that point. And that's why, yes, in Moldova we saw some dynamics that people try to invest in such type of instruments. I can say that it's a significant trend. A lot of people are doing that, big amounts. It's just a trying effort. They are looking how it looks like. Why? Because people are afraid, and probably it's not only the situation that was in Moldova, but I think in the region, a lot of countries had this pyramids, financial, and they lost their money, and of course people are afraid. They don't understand what is this, how they control. Because now, for example, why we have branches? Because people like to see where their money are. Oh, this is my bank, my money are there, and the girl Maria, for example, is my manager, and I know that she has my deposit. But now can you imagine that they are buying crypto and they are happy because they know where their money are? That's why, yes, there are some stresses, and I think it will continue until some regulation will come and people will receive confidence. However, in any areas and in any epochs, we have people which like to try, and in fact, we are the newcomers on some market. That's why I think it will come here also, but the speed, of course, will depend on the regulation and on confidence of the market.
And what about trust in the financial system? So do you feel, the ordinary citizen trusts the financial system in Moldova, or do you think there's still much work to be done?
I think yes. I do not have any evidences that people do not trust financial system now. How I can speak, I look at the official published data. These are, for example, deposit amounts, and they came back to the bank after the situation which we had at the end of February. So the people now recovered their deposits in the banks. They continue to transact with us, and I do not have any evidences that we do not trust. Also, I think that this is a great impact, a significant impact, and power from the central bank, because they are doing a lot now in order to show how the system is controlled, how legislation is implemented, and people probably receive that level of confidence. I think that yes, people trust now financial system.
Okay, that's certainly good news. So maybe just for the first part, closing question really to all of you is, if obviously the banking sector is facing disruption, clearly, what would your advice be to a CEO or a CTO? Maybe we start with you, Marci.
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, we need to see this from two angles, in my opinion. First of all, we need to understand where the disruption is coming from, actually. What these companies are doing that, as a bank, you consider them as being a disruptor. Once you understand that, there are two options. First of all, to do things that they do, but better, or to actually partner with those companies in order to target new segments or markets that you were not able to do that before. Because one thing that we need to keep in mind and to see what is coming is that your future customer is over there. We can hear them right now, right? Yeah, maybe not tomorrow, maybe not the day after tomorrow, but they will come and they will be 100% digital, I can assure you. I'm looking at my daughter who's 16 now, and she doesn't understand things that are not digital. What about these guys? These guys will have no idea what not digital is. So that's why you need to be prepared. Whether that's a disruptor technology or not, it's for us to decide, okay? But you need to be ready, having the technology ready, and not only that, but you need to embrace a technology that will allow you to scale up. Because I agree with Aliona. Today, you have a mix, okay? You have financially educated people and less educated people from this perspective, I mean. But tomorrow, this will be higher and higher towards the digital part. That's why whatever system you are embracing today, you need to keep in mind that tomorrow you need to scale up, and that's why you need to take into consideration a technology that will give you this perspective.
Well, I will join probably on top of this first idea. I believe that banks need clearly to take a decision on collaboration. They need to collaborate more. Even in the question that you have made some minutes ago on big techs are coming with much more resources and so on, I believe that nowadays the era that banks are doing everything in-house, it's finished. If they want to keep to do everything in-house, at some point they will fail. So they need to focus on what is really, or to reinvent what is really their core business, and to collaborate a lot, because on a David versus Goliath, or on a disruption, meaning tipping point, they will need to get their army well prepared to attack that exactly tipping point. I also believe that banks needs clearly to think in the future, and for that the strategy that I already point out some minutes ago, of having clearly an area that thinks about the future and is not the traditional banking structures that we have had in the last 20, 30 years or so. It's important, because focus on thinking about the future, it becomes more important, because the speed that the things change are faster. And the banks are not used to change from one day to the other, or to adapt faster to these changes. And that will be my extra topics.
Alexandra?
Okay, I think that the most important thing for CEO or CTO is to look exactly what they want to implement, to understand exactly what means the digitalization, and what should be digitalized and how, not to be in the situation that you have showed us in the morning, yeah, with such a digital transformation. And yes, as my colleague said, not to try to do the things by their own, because right now they know how to do finances. Trying to do software or other things like this, it should not be in their scope. Yeah? They should focus on doing business, doing exactly what they are doing the best, and to try to partner with other companies, yeah, to achieve a good digitalization.
Thank you. Aliona?
Difficult to give advices. But what I think that 4 questions should be in front of each CEO of any company now. The first one is what product you have. Then the second one, which business model you have for your products. The third one, where is your growth engine? How are you going to grow with that product and that business model? And the last one, but probably very important, what culture you promote. By culture, I mean, are you ready to transform? Are you agile enough? Are you innovative enough? And the advice is, ask these questions again and again, because situation is changing day by day.
Yeah, the culture one is a really interesting one, because you go to the boardroom most of the time, and culture is something fuzzy and not really contributing to the bottom line sometimes. So I think before we move on to digital transformation, I just wanted to bring the audience in around sort of disruption. If any of you have any questions or any insights, that'll be really useful to kind of engage. You've got a panel here, an esteemed panel of people operating in your market. Any quick questions before we move on to sort of the last part? I think all the banks know what they're doing in this space, so no problem. Okay, let's move on to digital transformation. So, everyone says, look, I know I have to do something. I got a strategy in place, but it's so hard to implement this. Digital transformation in a big bank is so hard. So maybe turning to the bankers then, how do you go about implementing digital transformation? So, is it a department? Do you have a separate committee? As you suggested, is it a different department that looks after it, or do you get the whole organization involved? How do you recruit talent? There's just so many questions. around digital transformation. In your bank specifically, how do you go about implementing digital transformation? And then maybe from the technology guys, if you see it from the outside, how do you see the more successful case studies? So maybe if you go to Hugo and Aliona first, how do you go about implementing digital transformation in your departments or in your banks?
Again, I will start with that, but it's a very difficult question because I will explain why. It's like asking how you are breathing. Because in fact, digital transformation, it's not a process which has a beginning and an end. It's part of it's like an internal control system. It's embedded in all our businesses. And how it's happening? Having a department probably was very fashionable 10 years ago. And everybody said that they go digital, but probably because it was in vogue, but nobody doesn't know exactly what we are doing. Now, probably most in the room already can answer that there is no product or service which you are preparing only for offline channel. You are thinking from the beginning how it will look online. That's why in our situation, of course, we can't separate digital from the bank. It's inside the bank. It's in any agile team we are developing. So we are having mixed teams where digital people, business analysts, IT are working together in order to create this priceless experience of any product they deliver. And they are doing this very fast. Why? Because every morning when we are waking up, we are waking in a new world. And if you are doing a product during 9 months, probably it will not be already necessary on the market, or somebody else will do. That's why, in my understanding, and I believe that a lot of people will share, you can't now separate digital from the business, because our business already is it could not be even understand without having online channel. 2 years ago, we had only, I can be wrong, but only about 10% of active clients in online. Now, we have around 80%. Of course, level of digitalization will be different, because somebody, for example, is online just to check account balances of accounts, because they want to be up to date. More advanced, they will make some P2P transfers, or will pay utilities. Others are already doing every kind of operation, and even already pay with voice or with eyes, because they want to try. But anyway, we understand that there is no product or service preparing now only for offline channel. You are preparing it at least for 2 online channels, and then you understand that you will deliver a customer experience which your clients want. So no department.
Okay, interesting. Hugo, how do your bank address digital transformation?
I'm not working the bank, so what I've seen, I can say is to comment what I've seen in banks in the regions. So meaning when I suggest to have a digital team that is thinking digital first and so on, is in a concept for an acceleration. Obviously, you can have banks that are already thinking digital first, which I believe for the explanation of Aliona is the case that where maybe already thinks digital first and launches a product thinking first digital and perhaps offline or not. In that case, this means that this is already embedded in the full organization of the bank, and then the department is the bank as a whole, thinking as digital first, and in that case, you don't need it anymore. Meaning, what I've seen in several banks along the last 3 or 4 years, in order to speed up things during, this, be it with the pandemics, because they needed to speed up and to keep up with the market, or before the pandemics, because they went to change the culture to get to this digital first, was betting on two streams in order to accelerate things, which is to have a team that is specifically dedicated to think digital in the future. Doesn't mean that the others are not participating. It means that this team is there for a while to accelerate the bank in getting there fast. The second bet that I've seen in several banks is to collaborate more, meaning to bring external players that can partner with the bank's teams to deliver fast, because with more people or with more resources, you can deliver fast and do more things in parallel. And in the last few years, meaning we are talking about digital, but digital is not only for, meaning the financial space or only for banks. The IT resources are disputed for all the industries, because meaning these challenges are happening in all the industries. So one thing that is very scarce in terms of implementation is exactly resources.
Thank you. So from an external perspective?
From our perspective, still we're not a bank, but we can speak from the successful stories that we've encountered. There are a couple of things that I'd like to point out here. First of all, a digital transformation process is a very important thing for any organization, especially for a bank. But we need to have a bit of a reality check. The reality says, and there is a Gartner research that is saying 70% of the digital transformation projects are failing. This is one thing, for various reasons. This is a topic in itself. That's why the digital transformation process needs to be embraced by all the company. And by that, I mean, definitely you need to have senior management sponsorship, even the CEO, in my opinion. This is one thing. The second thing, whoever is going to lead this one, and because I haven't seen lately, honestly, an organization that doesn't have a digitalization kind of a department, but whoever is going to be part of that department needs to get the feedback from all the department impacted by that process. Because, and that's the second reality check that we need to have, 30% of those digitalization processes are failing during implementation. And most of the time, the issue is that this is not being embraced by the internal departments. And I'll give you one example only. Sometimes we understand digitalization by, unfortunately, by cutting costs. Cutting costs meaning firing people, which is not the way it's supposed to be. We need to put the people where they matter most. Instead of doing administrative work, put them do what is more important, which is providing your customers real customer experience, which is better than just moving papers from one place to another. That's why whenever you think of an digital transformation, first of all, needs to be embraced by the full organization. Second, get the buy-in from all the impacted departments. And last but definitely not least, do it with professionals, people that done this before. Whatever if that means internal resources or partner with companies that have done this for a different company, in a different environment, it's up to you. But do it with people that know what they are doing.
No?
I would like to
Yes,
add
yes,
something,
go ahead.
because I remembered your question regarding talents. I think what my colleagues are saying, this is in this context, talents are also very important, because people will tend to resist, tend not to embrace changes, and if they do not feel that they have a career and that they develop. And I really believe that when you accept the path for digital transformation, it's very important to have inside the company a culture where talents are grown, where they feel important, and where they feel that in them people are ready to invest. So management is ready to invest. And I think that on agenda of a lot big companies will be now how to develop internal talents. Because from outside, it will be harder and harder and more expensive to take people, because resources are limited, and knowledge, of course they are, but the people will struggle for them to remain in the company. And here comes the story that management looks at the potential they have and invest in developing people, in creating career for them. And most important that I like a lot in our company is developing leaders. We say that we do not like people who are just who are doers, just doing something because you told them. We like people able to take decisions and to be leaders of what we are doing, to be innovators, not just asking what is going to happen and somebody will tell me. And this is a very important point in Moldova also, because The situation is at ease that a lot of people migrated from Moldova at some point of time. Of course, universities, they have some programs for developing people, but they can't adapt their programs day by day because the world is changing, economics are changing, technology are changing. They can't prepare people like with hard skills. They are preparing personalities able to see world around and to take decisions. And now, leaders in the markets, so CEOs and the management teams, they should think in terms of how we develop talents inside the company and keep them. And this is not an easy question, and I think HRs will have a lot to do next years in this regard.
Yeah, I think, thank you. You bring a very important point around, the challenges of digital transformation. And I think we mentioned two here. One is internal sabotage, probably by somebody who feels a bit threatened by the whole digital process and they think they're going to lose their job. The other one we mentioned is also the lack of talent. I mean, what are the other challenges that you see, either from inside the organization or, as suppliers to organizations? What are the challenges you see in digital transformation? So maybe, Alexandra, if you can get it from your perspective, as if you're selling a system, for example, do you find there's resistance because there's no cultural change or there's no buy-in at the top?
Actually, from my perspective, what we are selling is actually wanted right now, and we are not seeing people that are not willing to use our solution. Indeed, we've seen a lot of unsettlement from the people from the legal department, risk department, that they are not so easily to convince and to move on to this kind of solution. But lately, I have seen an opening, and actually people is trying to embrace these new solutions and to use them. They understand that it is in their interest. Yeah, and I have seen a lot of teams that are trying to solve the legal solutions, yeah, in order to use a solution.
There are a couple of things that worth mentioning here in terms of challenges in implementing digital projects. One of them, none of them cannot be overcome, but one of them could be the existing systems in that bank or financial institution. Again, I'm not saying this cannot be overcome, but at the end of the day, it will be up to the financial institution to select the technology that is not fully disrupting your system. Because I'll just give you a simple example. If you want to make your home smarter, let's say, you'll have one vendor that will say, oh, but we need to completely tear it down and rebuild your house. And you have another vendor that can say, okay, you can keep your plugs, your lights, we just need to put some routers and smart devices, and that's it. Same with the digital transformation in banks. Maybe your core banking system is not allowing you to do too many things that you want to do. But if you select the right technology that is not fully disrupting your existing system, by starting with small changes and then grow up, this could be another approach. This is one thing. The second thing is what I mentioned a little bit earlier, by having the right knowledge to do that. And this is an important thing because you need to have the right partner in this journey of transformation. A partner that you trust can be a consultancy company, can be a technology company, it doesn't matter. But you need to go with that partnership all the way. Because otherwise, as I mentioned, the project will fail.
Anything from you, Hugo?
Yes, probably I will add, meaning, lately, I agree with our colleague here that lately I'm seeing that, meaning banks and financial institutions are faster and more open to try and to test new products and services. Perhaps the obstacle that I'm seeing that is more on the spot in the last few years is about, meaning the complexity of the new digital transformation brings a lot of complexity out of a given status quo. That is posing a lot of doubts out of the regulations and the legal framework. We heard in the previous panel a lot of talk on that, meaning that regulation or the let's say a stable legislation, it's relevant for these innovative solutions. So I would say that perhaps this is one obstacle that out of this variety of new solutions that are popping up, it's one of the major obstacles within the last few years, and will be there for a while, because it's not one that is easy or faster to solve. That's the point that I would like to add.
Thank you. So Aliania, from your perspective, obviously Maib seems to have overcome some of these challenges. And so I mean, what challenges did you face, and how did you overcome them?
I will add to what my colleague said, because of course there is stuff related to what your core system can do. There are some, of course, challenges related to lack of people and of knowledge. Of course, you need advisors which are, you trust them and they have good experience. That's why I will add only that in digital transformation is very important the mindset of a team. Because if they have a wrong mindset and they try just to do some incremental changes, calling them digital transformation, you will lose the competition. But inside the company, in case you have, again, people with correct mindset, which embrace a culture of agility, innovation, able to transform, in that case, probably you will be able to develop a mindset in which digital transformation will happen in a sustainable way. So it's not just that you took the same product loan and you move it from the branch in the online, and people apply online for the loan, then it goes to underwriters on hand, they will answer in 3 days, okay, online. But it looks like online, but it's not the fact you wanted. So you need a different experience. In that case, you need a different mindset, how this is going to happen. And I think this is a big challenge, because you never know, is it right or not? And in that case, yes, you have some advisors, you have some possibilities.
How do you bring about that mindset, though? Not just at the senior level, but across the organization.
By
Is it
developing
training?
leaders. Again, lately we, in Maib, we are thinking and speaking a lot about culture. And I really believe that culture now becomes a strategic advantage of the companies when they know exactly what culture they have, what culture they want to develop, and how they are doing that. Because by culture, you change the mindset of the people, and you have the right people inside the company, and knowledge and skills, they will come. It's important to have people which want to develop, and they understand how to do that.
Thank you very much for that. I mean, we're coming to a close now, but I'll sort of, start off with, again, advice to CEO, CTO. I mean, if you ask me, what advice would you give to CEO, CTOs? And we do quite a few digital transformation workshops with CEOs. One thing I say to them, most of the time you're thinking of digital transformation purely from the perspective of the customer, the stakeholder. But you forget about there's other stakeholders in the organization. So, let's take example. COVID meant that you had to have a digital transformation strategy for your employees, right? You need a digital transformation for your stakeholders, like shareholders, for example, because you need to do reporting to them around profitability and, targets and things like that. Similarly, you need a digital transformation strategy for the regulator, because RegTech can save a huge amount of costs, but also more importantly, it prevents you from getting into trouble because you have AI systems looking over things. And lastly, digital transformation from the perspective of partners. So if you're partnering with people, you can't just have a conversation, right? Once you have passed the conversation, you need to start exchanging data, you need to have APIs. And so if I were to give advice to a CEO or CTO, I would say, take a holistic approach and put stakeholders, not just customers, at the heart of the digital transformation strategy. So maybe I just wanted to get your thoughts on, what would that one piece of advice be that could make a big shift to the CEO or the CTO? Go ahead.
So Basically, it will be a combination of the things that was mentioned earlier in this panel. So if I'm to advise a CTO or CEO in regards to their business digital transformation, I would say make sure that you have the right setup. The right setup in terms of people, knowledge, and processes. Have a clear understanding of all those three things. I'm not saying about internal versus external resources. I'm talking about having these three components in mind. Second, make a clear transformation of or transition between the transformation that you are doing to business advantages. You need exactly to have KPIs for this digital transformation that you are doing. How you are actually acting on the customer experience, how you're acting on your employee experience, because this is also important, and how this is going to generate new revenue for you as a financial institution. You need to have those in mind because along the process, you need to constantly review those KPIs to see if your business digital transformation is achieved or you are missing something. Last but definitely not least, choose a technology that will allow you to scale up, because I think it was mentioned today here, digital transformation is a journey actually, it's not one process. So that's why whatever you are doing today, you will have to redo it in 1 year, in 2 years, et cetera, et cetera. So whatever technology that you are going to use, make sure that that is scalable. It's not only fixing a part of your process, but throughout the business that you are having and allows you to scale up.
Thank you. So it's basically KPIs is your key takeaway and build scalability into your systems. Hugo?
Meaning, it's hard to join something because you started to summarize it well and you already had some more ideas. Probably I will have that before thinking in all these stakeholders, or probably one of these stakeholders is key to start with. Before embrace this journey of digital transformation, we need to have it clear where we want to be. Meaning, our strategy, meaning the way that we are doing with the digital transformation, and the arrival point. So I believe that one advice is to have it clear and start the discussion by the arrival point. What is our final goal? Where do we want to be after this journey?
So the key question or key message from you is start with the end in mind. Then it's easier to get to the end. Yeah, it's a good advice. What about you, Alessandro?
Yeah, so I think that the digital transformation it's a never-ending process. Yeah, actually, what we are thinking right now that is the top of the digital transformation tomorrow will be something else. Yeah, it will be replaced, and you have to every time to be prepared for this. My advice is to think about what you want to achieve by digital transformation and do it step by step. Yeah, do small steps. Do not try to change the whole organization over the night. It's not going to succeed if you are doing it like this. Just move step by step and try to solve first the most important problems in your flow.
Okay, so it's prioritization, and I think the question to ask is why are we doing this thing probably? So you're making sure that you're getting some value out of it. So last but not least, Aliona, your perspective or advice to the CEO and CTO.
I think that digital transformation, it's not happening because you want to be digital. It's some other reasons, and probably when starting to transform something, it's important to be sure how this will differentiate you from others. So what is your value proposition, which will help you to be the choice of the customers? Then you start. Because everybody can do payments, everybody can do P2P, everybody can do, I don't know, loans, online deposits. But what is your product value proposition which differentiate you from all others? And probably this will be my advice.
Okay, so it's basically align your digital transformation to your value proposition, yeah, and make sure that you're delivering the value. So I just wanted to open the floor to any questions, and hopefully we're going to get at least one question coming through to this esteemed panel. Any questions before we close the panel? Doesn't look like it. I think it's probably too late in the day. But I'd like you to extend a warm round of applause to the esteemed panel, and thank you very much.